Ghostface comes in and BAM! What's up, guys? Want some lemon squares? Nah, that's all good. They taste like ass anyway. Today, we're going to talk about Scream 4. Let's go. What's going on, y'all? Foos here. Today, we're going to talk about Scream 4. But before we do that, as always, I want to say a big thank you to everybody that's checked out any of the videos in the Scream series already for 1, 2, and 3. If you haven't seen those ones, please go ahead and check those out before you watch this one. And again, thank you to anybody that has already. Appreciate all the support on the channel. I can't mention enough how much that means. But without further ado, let's go ahead and we'll dive into Scream 4. Scream 4 was released on April 15th, 2011. This one was actually, for me, interesting enough, the first one that I saw in theaters. For whatever that's worth. This was directed by Wes Craven, again, as well, but this would be the last of the Scream movies that would be directed by Wes Craven before his unfortunate passing in 2015. This one would also mark the first return to the Scream franchise for Kevin Williamson. Obviously, we had lost him on Scream 3. He would come back to write this one, and then obviously he's making a second triumphant return to the Scream franchise here for Scream 7, so interestingly enough there. Also returning major cast-wise, our core 3 of the OG, Scream movies we get back here with Neve Campbell as Sidney Prescott. We get Courtney Cox as Gale Weathers and David Arquette back as Dewey. We also get Roger Jackson returning as the Ghostface voice in this one. And my goodness, if we ever get a Scream movie without Roger Jackson, I mean, we're in trouble for sure. And in this one, we also get a pretty sizable list of new casts as well. We get Emma Roberts in this one as Jill Roberts, Hayden Panettiere as Kirby Reed. We also get Rory Culkin in this one as the Charlie Walker role. Marley Shelton as Deputy Judy in this. And then Alison Brie as Sidney's publicist, Rebecca Walters. A few cameo and smaller role appearances as well by the likes of Kristen Bell, Anna Paquin, Anthony Anderson, among some others. But as far as this one goes, we are 15-year anniversary of our original Woodsboro events, and Sidney is returning back to Woodsboro at this point as an author. She's written her self-help book and is kind of trying to inspire others to shed their past traumas and all of that, and in her case, her victim persona, and kind of turn a new leaf and come out of darkness, as the book is called. But coinciding with this 15-year anniversary, 2 Woodsboro High School students are murdered using Ghostface's MO, and Sidney is kind of framed as a suspect this time around. And as the events are unfolding, Ghostface kind of shows his intentions in targeting Sidney's family and friends. And once again, Sidney is forced to kind of go toe-to-toe with Ghostface. So that's where we're at on this one, as far as just general stuff. But we'll dive right into it on this one. We'll kind of flip-flop. We'll go negatives again on this one first and start with that. So let's go. So for the negatives on this one, I'm going to start with the hospital scene in the third act. And in particular, once we get to Sidney's room, it just feels like that one goes on for so long to an unrealistic level. I mean, you already have it being hard enough to believe that this girl's going to get up in the hospital, out of the hospital bed, and just walk around so easily to get to Sidney's room in the first place. Then when she gets there, Dewey comes in, obviously gets knocked out with, I think it's a bedpan. But you mean to tell me that all this time goes off, all this commotion going on in there, she's attacking Sidney, and no one else makes it in, with the exception, obviously, of our main characters with Gale and Judy coming in. But no one else manages to hear any of this. No security guards, no other doctors, no nothing. It's just one of those scenes that drags on to the point of, like, I can suspend my disbelief for a while, but only for so long. Had it been a situation where when Jill makes it to Sidney's room, she comes in and attempts to attack her, and then whether it's Dewey or whoever it is comes in, and Jill is pretty much subdued right from there, then the scene for me it would be much better, much more believable. It goes on for so long. We get some good lines out of it and whatever, and I'm fine with it overall, but I just feel like it's one of those negatives I have for it, whereas I'm watching the movie, I find myself just going, wow, this is going for a bit. And yeah, that's definitely a negative for me on this one. Another negative I'll point out about 4 is the intro. I kind of not the biggest fan of that many layers to the movie within the movie part. Had it just been they started the movie where it's stab, and then we come out of it and we're in our, our main world there, so to speak, and our opening scene happens, okay, whatever, I could deal with it. But having it be multi-layered like it was, I kind of was like, all right, this is a little bit much. And then, as if you watched any of my other reviews on the Scream stuff so far, you will notice kind of a trend here that is one of my common negatives, is when the stab or the over meta nature, so to speak, of that movie within a movie thing gets either taken too far or taken to the sort of kind of campy, hokey, cheesy sort of level. But that's another one for me. The opening scene kind of meh, as far as I'm concerned, with how much they go for that overly meta nature there. Another one that I'll point out in this one that not really the biggest fan of and kind of falls into the negative category for me would be the characters of Haas and Perkins, the cops. Not that there aren't some funny moments, I guess, to them and whatnot, and if that's your thing, enjoy it by all means, but they come off more scary movie than Scream for me, I guess is if I had to describe it the best way. And I mean, what did Bruce Willis do, to be honest, for the, catching stray bullets at the end? Yeah, but those guys, while I do enjoy, I guess, a little bit of the nature of how Perkins' death comes into play, but the characters overall in nature, again, they seem more scary movie than Scream for me. But lastly, on the negatives, my final one I leave on it is the reveal of the killers on this one. And now, not the killers themselves or the motives even of the killers, those are not negatives for me, just the reveal itself. Charlie, we get revealed as, he's lifting up from the chair when Kirby comes out and she thinks she's won, and he stabs her. There's no real reveal. It's a surprise moment, sure, and we kind of get our tell there, like, okay, he's the killer. But I don't know, it's just kind of anticlimactic for me when it's done that way. Same thing with the Jill one. Even though I know that one seems to be a big one for a lot of people, she comes around the corner, she stabs Sidney and takes the mask off. I don't know, it just kind of, for me personally, it just doesn't stick the same way some other ones did. So the reveals for me overall, not the greatest for me. They're kind of meh as well. I do enjoy, I will say, the motives of the killers in this one. I kind of like Jill's whole fame take and all that. I find that to be different, interesting as far as that goes, because it's one of those things that people do get to the point where they're kind of sick in the head for the idea of fame and all of that sort of stuff. So, very believable type of motive that somebody that's just not mentally stable in some type of way could be drawn to that sort of idea or philosophy to, try to chase fame in such a crazy way. But yeah, so outside of the motives and all of that aside, though, the reveals were a little underwhelming. So that'll be it for me on the negatives, though. We'll go ahead and we're going to transition over to the good stuff now. We'll talk about the positives. All right, so as far as positives on this one go, first things first, probably going to get a lot of disagreement on this part, and, whatever. I don't care. I'm just going to say it. I fucking love the goofy-ass filter that this movie has over it. Whatever you want to call it, the color correction, or whatever the hell it is, I enjoy it. And I know everybody else I see's opinion on it seems to hate it. They cannot stand this shit. I love it, personally. Don't know why I love it. Can't justify it to you. I just like it. And I'm just glad I have my own copy of it at this point that has it. So whenever streaming has wiped it away in some new version, or, it's re-released in a version that doesn't have it, I'll be good to go. And I can keep watching my shitty, weirdly filtered version of Scream 4. I love it. So that's a positive for me. Moving on from that, though, something more substantial. I do enjoy the young new cast in this one a lot, and how they mix with our OG cast from the original trilogy, so to speak. You get Kirby Reed in this one, who I find to be a really enjoyable character, as well as Robbie, and also to a lesser extent Jill and Charlie. But the way that they interact, like I said, with our new with our OG cast, I should say, I find to be entertaining. There's some cool moments, like with Dewey and Kirby early on, where you kind of can tell they have a little bit of a history with each other when she's flying by his house, and he's kind of got this like, come on, type of moment. And, also with Gail and Sidney when they have their interaction with the film students later on, and, all that good stuff. So I do enjoy the mix we get of that young cast and our older cast of characters as well. I feel like it's done really well in this one, for me at least. And another major positive on this one that I have to point out, I got to give credit where it's due. By far, my favorite version of Gale Weathers here in Scream 4. I know I've given her a decent amount of flack in some of my other reviews of Scream, and you know, I will say overall in the overall course of the Scream franchise, not one of my favorite characters for the things that she does, you know, the nature of her character. Uh, but I love her in this one, dare I say. She's just at a whole different phase of her life, as you know, has kind of settled down as Mrs. Riley. She's focusing on her writing, all this type of stuff that kind of just makes her more genuine and more relatable, and just kind of has some funny moments as well. I would say at points. I kind of mentioned earlier the film student situation. I always love the line where she hits him with the wanting to know where the circle jerk is taking place, talking about the stabathon. Just overall, to really enjoy Gale in this one. And she's kind of, you know, the brains of the whole operation at the end when she puts two and two together on the matching wounds thing when Jill slips up at the hospital. So a lot of good things for Gale in this one. I really enjoy her. The way she goes rogue, you know, on the whole investigation when Dewey's kind of trying to shut her out. Just her moments where she has little small interactions with Sidney's publicist and she kind of like just cooks her a little bit there. Gale is by far at her peak level for me personally in this one. Love Gale Weathers in Scream 4. Another detail I like about this one that I'll put in the positives is, while still staying true to Scream's nature, I think they do amp up the violence in this one a bit. You definitely get that with the Olivia scene, which I would say is probably the most violent Scream scene by far, since we got Casey Becker in the opening scene of Scream 1. Also, few other ones in this one that, you know, I feel like amp it up a bit. We get Anthony Anderson, you know, Perkins getting stabbed, for lack of a better word, in the face. You get the publicist, while she's stabbed up in the parking garage, she is also thrown off the said parking garage there, which I think takes it up a notch from getting thrown off the balcony of the frat house. But yeah, just some overall general violence increase in this one. I mean, Jill stabs homeboy in a place, or shoots, I should say, homeboy in a place you don't want to get shot. Yeah, so definitely putting that one into positives for me for this one. I feel like the violence just gets amped up a bit. And another positive I won't harp on too much in this one because we've beat it to death in the first three reviews is Sidney Prescott. Just a continued positive on this one for me. She's almost numb as a character in this one a bit. She's kind of at a phase where you can tell she's just gone through so much. And we don't see it in the theatrical version of this, but if you ever watch any of the deleted scenes or anything, we find out that Sidney's dad has passed away when Dewey and Gale are talking at one point. So just going through a whole lot, just almost seems numb. A couple cool points that I like of her in this one is when she first sees Ghostface for the first time as he's attacking Olivia. She sees him through the window across the house, and the face and the expression, the way she sells seeing him again after all this time's gone by, it's one of those great moments. And she has the great line later on in the third act, you know, don't fuck with the original. So that's classic stuff. But that's all I got on the positives there. We'll go ahead and we'll wrap it up here with a few final thoughts and finish this thing up. All right, y'all. So as far as final thoughts go, a couple little hindsight points I'll point out that I always find to be kind of fun once you know who's responsible. Jill, when you watch her in the classroom, when everybody gets the collective alert about Marnie Cooper and Jenny Randall's murder, she's the only one in the classroom that doesn't look at her phone, doesn't pick her phone up, doesn't solve it at all. And why would she? She knows already, right? Also, when Kirby and Jill are watching Shaun of the Dead in the bedroom and Ghostface calls, we get the whole situation where he asks how the movie is, and he references that he knows they're watching Shaun of the Dead. How would he know they're watching Shaun of the Dead unless he had some sort of communication with somebody that did know they're watching Shaun of the Dead, which only seemed to be Kirby and Jill, right? So we kind of learn right there, if we know, Jill has to be talking to Ghostface somehow, right? So those little moments are kind of cool looking back once you know she's responsible. Always got creeped out by a moment in this one too. Judy is just standing off in the hallway at one point when Sidney comes out of the room after talking to Jill, and she's standing off in the shadows just creepily waiting for Sidney to come out of the bedroom to start talking to her about plays in high school. And it's kind of like her little red herring moment that they throw in there, but I don't know why. She just creeped me the fuck out every time I watch this movie. So that's a funny little one for me. And then as far as final thoughts go on this, I will finish up with the deleted scenes. I feel like are a disservice to this movie in the sense that they are deleted scenes in some cases. Mentioned it a little bit earlier when I talked about the Sidney's dad passing thing. I feel like keeping that scene in would have been nice, to kind of just illuminate that point, hammer that home, to make sure it wasn't missed. Because that is a pretty critical detail, in my opinion. And it wasn't a very long scene. It could have been slipped in, I feel like, and nothing would have been amiss because of it. Also, on the opening scene, we get, at least in the moment, or the portion of it, I should say, where Marnie Cooper and Jenny Randall are murdered, we get an alternate version of that in the deleted scenes, which for me works a lot better than what we get in the final version, which is fine, don't get me wrong, but I just like what happens in the alternate version much better, where, you know, they kind of have their little moment where they play their trick on each other and it's kind of finished up. And they're about to go back to watching the movie and everything, and I guess just because it's nature of whatever the situation is, they happen to have the little side patio door open, and one of them goes in, they're getting stuff out of the refrigerator, and we have the shot where the fridge door opens and then it closes, you know, that whole thing. And Ghostface is standing there in the patio door, and she thinks it's part of the joke still, like, all right, well, we thought we were done messing with each other, blah, blah, blah. So I guess she's assuming another friend's here and is in on the joke, but it's not a friend. Ghostface starts stabbing, and before we know it, they're both killed. I just like the way that one plays out better than what we get in the actual version of the movie. But lastly, I'll point out another little one that is, actually, as far as, I'll show you before we move on to this, in relation to Marnie Cooper and Jenny Randall's scenes, there's another deleted scene where they go to the crime scene and we see the cops there, and it's a gruesome aftermath that Ghostface has left behind, and I kind of wish we would have kept that in the movie, to be honest. It is one of those ones when you see it, you're like, damn, this is cool. I kind of wish we would have kept this in the movie. And if you haven't seen it already, it's out there. You can look it up if you don't have a copy of it. You just go look the deleted scenes up and you'll know what I'm talking about. And then there's a gag reel moment as well that I wish we would have kept in here, when Dewey and Gail are shown for the first time, and Dewey's alarm's going off. He wakes up and he goes to turn over to shut it off, and he just kind of busts his hand on the side of the nightstand and has this, oh, ah, shit type of moment. But he keeps through the scene, and it's one of those moments, it could have been plausible enough to just keep it in. It was natural. It could have been a happy accident, and to me was on par for the Dewey character. I mean, he's always been very clumsy. This man's falling down steps and falling down hills and everything all the time. So I think it would have been on par. It was a funny little scene. I wish we would have kept it in there. But that's all I really got, really, for Scream 4 on this one. I'll say Stabathon is one of those things I get jealous of every time I watch this movie. It looks super cool. It kind of makes me want to Scream-a-thon or whatever movie-a-thon. But just the idea of a massive party movie-watching marathon always looks super cool. But yeah, for Scream 4, that's all I got. It's four stars for me on this one. So 4 for Scream 4. Did not do that intentionally, just kind of how I thought. This one has always been one of my favorite sequels here, and kind of fluctuates up and down as it always ebbs and flows when I'm ranking them out, but this one's always pretty high on the list. From here, we're going to jump up into the future again a bit next time around when we hop into the Carpenter era, as I'm going to call it here, of Scream movies, when we talk about Scream 5. So that one should be fun. Looking forward to that. In the meantime, in between time, please go back and watch Scream 1, 2, and 3 reviews. Thank you for checking this one out. But yeah, that's it for this one. We'll see you on the next one. Take it easy.